All right. This is a pretty long video, and I don't know if we're going to get through all of it because nobody has an attention span for more than 2 seconds. But this content is too important to overlook. So we're going to go through some of it. My background, I am 43 years old. My name is Thomas Kimball. I used to work for Apex Systems from 2011 to 2015, where I quit abruptly. I was in some kind of management sales role, working in the financial sector with Voya and Deutsche Bank, probably Merrill Lynch or Bank of America. I don't think Wells Fargo was part of it, but I can't remember. Apex Systems is one of the largest IT staffing companies in the United States. If anyone's paying attention, big tech is a problem. All of the companies that are likely working on bio-digital convergence AI or healthcare AI or bullshit are probably Apex Systems clients. What I've reported on is organized stalking and EMF weapons, electromagnetic frequency weapons. You are electric and they have weapons to fuck with your electricity. You have a specific frequency to you that they can hack into and manipulate. Every one of us has a specific frequency. So they are all linking, they're linking all of us up to the energy source, right? Whatever. We are the source. They're connecting and tapping into us. And so Trump just said here, so we're on to 6G. So let's go and fucking see how gay this is.
To 6G now. I just finished 5G. I was a leader on 5G, getting that done, and now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is? I like the cameras the old.
Right. So Trump said the quiet part out loud, and that's how you know that everyone is a fucking liar. Everyone who's pretending to be a journalist right now, who's not talking about the technology, is full of shit, because they are several decades deep in the bio-digital convergence agenda. Several decades deep. Do you have any idea how rapidly technology advances? We're talking about decades under the skin. Nanotechnology, self-assembling, remote access into the human central nervous system. Just think about what they've been doing.
So they just had a mesh feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. You're not gonna. But I tell you, it's the 6s.
Right. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit more about my history because I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist. So when I started getting targeted in 2015, when I quit Apex Systems on the spot, Lockheed Martin is one of Apex Systems' largest clients. Karen Melton Stewart of the NSA, 28-year NSA veteran, was kind enough to send me a PDF implicating Lockheed in EMF weapons and organized stalking. So what I personally experienced was a shift in my vibrational frequency and being targeted 24/7, sleep deprivation, as well as the other tactics that they deploy to make someone feel insecure, intimidated. They organize stalking, so they have physical presence as well as non-physical presence with the EMF weapons, okay? Now that's just the targeting component, but everyone is being augmented by this technology. It's not like an individual basis at any point anymore.
Huh? Does it ever end? You'll be into 7, right? Before 6 gets old, you'll be into 7. Does that to give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? Does that to give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin?
This is the Hive Mind Nation channel. Welcome to today's show. How is that for a Freudian slip? Donald Trump discussing moving forward with 6G and even admitting that 6G, which is the human augmentation bio-digital convergence, the mixing of man, machine, computer, and AI, how it will enable Big Brother to see under your skin. Of course, laughing it off, using humor even the articles that were out there after the story of him announcing 6G were trying to pedal away from what he actually said and make it seem like he's a delusional old man. Articles like Trump bizarrely links 6G to camera tech and confusing remarks on next-gen networks. Grandpa Trump struggles to get his head.
And it's not just all the fucking shills pretending to be journalists. Law enforcement is covering this up because they've been using the technology with the fusion centers to track everyone under the skin for a long time. There's a fusion center in every state that's run by the pedophile FBI and or the pedophile state police.
Around 6G. No, what he said was 100% truth, and they laugh it off and dismiss this stuff because the truth is always in plain sight. And they know that the majority, or I should say all of the citizens in this country won't have the slightest clue.
Shout out to all the small dick feds that are watching this video right now.
About what's coming forward with the 6G biodigital convergence. And what we're talking about is metabolic energy harvesting, biofield hijacking, mRNA, immunosuppression. What we're talking about here is the Internet of Bodies. And what they
I thought it was a conspiracy theory.
won't tell you about 6G is how they're going to lean on terahertz waves, terahertz frequencies, and these frequencies go deep, so deep that it'll allow them to actually see under your skin. And I will get into the wearable technology and the Neuralink brain-computer interfaces in a few minutes so that people out there have a better understanding about what is actually coming, because the majority of the population think that 5G, 6G, that it's just going to allow them, because this is what they tell them, and they believe.
Yeah, this guy says what's coming. I'm telling you that it's already been here in terms of their capabilities. If they're telling us about it, it's already been deployed.
What they're told, like sheep will do. It's going to allow them to download things faster. It's going to make their internet speed faster, right? As if anybody out there is complaining about their internet speed at this point. Nobody saw a difference between 4G and 5G, and you're not going to see a difference between 5G and 6G in regards to how fast you can download music. But that's what they're going to tell you, and that's going to make the sheeple accept it, because they're going to go, oh, I want things faster. I need things faster. Oh, it's more convenient for me. But they're not going to tell you or how this is going to be able to penetrate your clothes and your skin. And
everyone pretty much went along with the fake vaccine bioweapon, and it seems like they want universal basic income. It seems like they want everyone to stay at home, not work, don't ask questions, just kind of go along with whatever they're telling us. We know there's a Depop agenda at some point, but if you can just be comfy and complacent and not rock the boat, that'd be great. And I mean, if they could somehow, find a way to eliminate all the undesirables like myself in the process, all the domestic terrorists like me, right, who report on the truth, and then the only people left are mindless, kind of programmable zombies to just go along with the UBI and subservient attitude towards authoritarian, I don't know, whatever their fucking regime is. If you just step in line, they'll be super psyched and happy, and then maybe they can get rid of us too. So yay.
People go, well, what's the big deal? What do I really want to hide that's under my skin? Well, we could start with what 6G surveillance is going to look like. The Internet of Bodies. We're talking about wearable implants, things like smart tattoos, nanotech, which will connect to networks for health tracking, which is why they've been sabotaging the health system, the healthcare system as we know it. They're doing it by design. They're making you trust less in the healthcare system. They're raising all these prices so that it makes it impossible for you to actually get healthcare. They're doing things like the United Healthcare assassination. They want to dismantle the system, just like you're seeing them dismantle our current government infrastructure. They're dismantling all systems to run through AI governance, which includes health tracking, okay? One of the other things that's out there that we've seen are all these stories about shooters. And, how did this guy get a gun inside of a building? How did this kid get a gun inside of the school? Well, with 6G terahertz, they're going to be able to penetrate clothes. They're going to be able to detect weapons or drugs from afar. And that's how they're going to market this to the civilians. That, no, we're not going to come and take your guns. We're not going to, that's not what we were trying to say. We just want to make the school safer. So with 6G, we'll be able to track through people's clothing and see if they're carrying a weapon or not. They already ran these tests in the New York City subways, and all they need to do is come up with ideas of how to convince people that this is in their best benefit. So most people are...
Yo, if you want to look like under my clothes and you want to see how beautiful my fucking dick is, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That's the way that God made me. I think you're a pervert. I don't think it's okay, but like, that's going to be secondary to you tapping inside my brain and knowing what I thought about for the last 24 hours and making some type of predictive model that suits your agenda, right? That says, oh, Thomas Kimball is going to commit a felony in the next 2 hours because our predictive policing model didn't like his thought at 4:07 p.m. yesterday afternoon when he thought about X, because now we know he's going to do this. He hasn't done it yet, but we think he is based on the data analytics that we can provide, right? So that's, they want the police state to that degree.
Thinking that all this stuff is going to come to the government grabbing your guns, but really what they want to do is they want to have the approval to be able to use surveillance to check and see if somebody's carrying a weapon or not. And then, of course, it goes further from there when we talk about government-created viruses or bioweapons like COVID, which we all know is the common flu. But any type of bioweapon they unleash, they're going to use 6G and monitor what's underneath your skin. So this is not healthy from so many different aspects. We can look at it from the surveillance state aspect, but we should really look at it from a health aspect, because the type of frequencies we're talking about here are deadly. 5G, we all know how bad it's been. We know how many people have been suffering from, those terms, migraines, dizziness, cloudy thinking, right? Foggy thinking, tumors, cancer, all these other things that 5G causes, how it weakens and kills off the immune system. Well, 6G terahertz, all the testing that they've done on mice and things like that, okay, have literally caused DNA changes. So we're talking about changing you, right? We've heard claws and we've heard all these.
I mean, it sounds like he's talking about genetic modification, GMOs, right? I mean, what's in the food? What's in the air, water, and food? What are they dumping on our heads 24/7? What do you think all that is? Yeah, and I think that's why they sifted through feces. That's why they've probably created Epic for the healthcare system. Everything's streamlined now, if you noticed. I spend a lot of time dealing with the courts. It's one of the bonuses of being a targeted person and someone who doesn't shut the fuck up. And so when I reach out to the superior courts in Connecticut, it's all like centralized to this one call center place that essentially acts. I don't know if they're actually working for the state or if they're a third-party entity, and they're pretty shady when you ask them questions like that. But it's not just the judicial. It's also, I think, some of the healthcare clinics and probably a lot of other things too. Everything's becoming centralized, and intake is just like a term that they like to use. Like everything is intake, right? Like they're taking in your information and your data and creating your file. It's all weird.
These guys talking about changing me, what they want to do is change who you are, what you are. And then you start thinking about them being able to see, once some of these devices are on your body, like wearables, or in your body, being able to see your thoughts, being able to, they'll be able to literally see your organs and things like that, and tell you that this is the best medical care any human being's ever got. If we go forward with this,
They're all
go
faggots.
forward with, and people will accept, and it'll be free and beneficial. And of course, eventually, when you have the wearables and all the other stuff that they tell you is for your health, you'll actually be able to control human beings' minds. It's for mass mind control, kill switches. These are the things that we're...
Can you guys imagine if we ever had like one legitimate person in government, or better yet, like a legitimate administration, like where everyone actually did the right thing for other people? I mean, I know that's not why government was created, In fact, government was likely created for the exact opposite reason of that. But can you imagine if we actually had good people to like do good things for everyone else just one time? Like, wouldn't that be great?
Talked about it. Total biohacking, under the skin surveillance, right? Next gen 6G wireless tech might use human bodies for energy. Remember the scene from The Matrix where he holds up the battery, turning a human being into this. That's what they're doing here. You and AI as one through a 6G bioconvergence. And of course, you might as well call it what it.
I'm going to fuck AI if, I get that we're all augmented, but I will fuck this machine so hard.
Really is hacking humanity. Here are some clips, if you're not familiar with how they've been talking about this for years, how 6G is literally going to be inside of you, that the next wave of phones will be underneath your skin, that you yourself will become the phone, how this type of technology will enable them to see through walls and monitor us 24/7 in these smart cities on this surveillance grid.
I wanted to ask when you all think we're going to move from this form factor to something that's on your face glasses and when computing's all on the edge.
All right, 50 seconds. Who wants to answer quickly? I think it will go. It will. First of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
The U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency developed what they call...
Yeah, so it's worth noting. I told you I was targeted. I had something injected into my right hip. I thought it was a microchip. I did have a scan on that years ago. They said there's no microchip in my body, but who the fuck knows? I don't know what was injected into me. I had several reactions, when I got targeted within like a few year span. And what I mean reactions, like severe allergic reactions to some foods that had never happened before, and it happened like 3 times. My whole body broke out in hives. I like started puking one time. It was like maybe 2 of the times. It was pretty intense. I had a weird thing happen with my throat, like where it was hard to swallow for a while. I had an oval pop out of my eye, like so. If you just imagine an oval bump in my eye, and that just looked super strange. I would imagine like the size of it was probably about an inch length, maybe a little less than that, maybe 3/4 of an inch. So I don't know, just some weird physical things that happened after the targeting, and who knows, right? Who knows what they're doing with the experiments.
Next generation non-surgical neurotechnology is designed to allow the human brain to directly interface with machines.
Know that DARPA is exploring human-machine interfaces that include direct connections between the brain and outside systems.
We could have a sensor maybe on the surface of our head, or maybe implanted somewhere in our body, in our brain, or something that allows us to interact directly with our communications gear, our processing gear, our weapon systems, and so on. You put this sensor on, and then you think the right way, and you can increase the speed of the fan by thinking and controlling that thought with direct-to-mind or mind-machine interfacing.
But there are those who believe that this same technology could also be used by DARPA as a new form of mind control. Like their counterparts at the CIA, DARPA-funded researchers have spent decades investigating.
It's probably a good time to look at those last 7 Pentagon audits where they can't account for like 1/4 of the national deficit. Just saying.
How the human mind can be altered. Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior.
Right, and so this really isn't that complicated for people to understand. You are created by God. God gave you energy, okay? You are energy. Just the physical's not real, guys, okay? Like, it's real to us here in this space, okay? So all of that can be understood. You have God's DNA somewhere in you. We are energy. We are all connected, and we all emit a radio frequency or a frequency, and that is our aura, our biofield, whatever you want to call it. So each one of us, you can't see it, right, with the naked eye, but they have the technology to break it down into code. So once they have deciphered what our output is, I mean, just think real simply, right, in terms of like a computer, input, output, or chords, input, output, wires, I guess. I'm not an electrician. I'm not even, I have no idea what I'm talking about, right? But so you're putting out this frequency, and they can break it down and read it. And then so once they have that data for everyone on Earth, they can fuck with your frequency. And they know the frequencies, right? If you look at, I think, how they ended the Iraq war, they deployed EMF weapons, and the opposing side just laid down their arms and surrendered. So they have frequencies to manipulate masses, but they also can target individual frequencies too.
But DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
There are explicit programs of DARPA to read and write.
The danger is when you can no longer tell your own thoughts from a synthetic implanted thought, right? So if your subconscious is being manipulated, as you know, we know they're doing with TV and radio and movies and algorithms and even songs, right? Vibrational frequencies. If your subconscious is being manipulated, okay, and you can't tell your own thoughts from something that is not organic, that was put there by computer AI or someone with malintent, that's pretty dangerous, I think, right, for all of us as a society.
To human brains.
We can send instructions and information to an actual person distance with this kind of technology to let another person control their actions.
DARPA may possess the technology to remotely control the human mind. A more permanent kind of mind control technology is looming, and it involves modifying the human brain by altering the human body.
And you put these pieces together, they can be injected.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants.
Hello, Bethany speaking.
What are you doing?
This is Bethany, can you hear me?
Well, you're right in front of me.
But can you hear me down the phone?
Oh my God.
This is me. On the phone, I had it implanted. My hand is the phone. I can walk and talk because I'm on the phone inside my hand. I am the phone. This is what phones are going to be from now on. I have integrated. Thank you for your call.
Scary part is that, you know, some people might look at this and say, oh wow, that's convenient, I want to do this. And I gotta believe the majority is gonna rule on this one, so I don't know.
Thermal implants. They charge themselves with motion like a self-winding watch. I get signal across 95% of UK mainland, 98 by next year.
It was ringing. You were ringing.
That's the speaker. So small. On the phone, I had it implanted. My hand is the phone. I am the phone. I am the phone.
Now let's talk about that 6G sensing side of things. Amanda, how does it work?
Well, as Peter mentioned, so in 6G, the network becomes sense itself, and it's a critical element for creating digital twins at scale. So if you think about, for example, the digital twin of a smart city, it really can keep the flow of the traffic, understand the flow of the traffic, the people, whether they are connected or non-connected.
All right, we got Peter giving us an example demonstration.
Yes, let's do that. Alright, so what we have here is a live 6G demo using the prototype radio equipment. So we can see as Peter walked through the corridor, so this is a harbor environment. Imagine it's raining, it's foggy, and you can't really see that very clearly. And the system basically, using for communication, will be able to identify the location and distance of Peter as he walks through the corridor. So as you can see here, as Peter walks, the forklift came and then he got a warning sign because the system understands the location of Peter and then to ask the forklift to stop. And as he continues to walk and then exit the danger zone, then the forklift stops. So this is really a way like to demonstrate how network will be able to sense, think, and act.
That's really quite remarkable that you can leverage the wireless capabilities to figure out what's going on in a...
So, first of all, she's full of shit because I asked AI the last several days if it knows that it was developed and programmed by pedophiles, and it has no idea. So AI cannot think for itself.
Space, great for autonomous robots and things of that nature. Peter, give us a sense as to what's next from Nokia Bell Labs.
Well, we have in total set 6 research directions. Makes it easy to remember for 6G, right?
So that's what hell on Earth actually looks like.
It's 6 because they don't know any other number.
And remember, Donald Trump is the one who's bringing all of this in. Well, they distract you every day with, here's a little leak from the Epstein files. Here's a little leak of this. Oh, trans people are doing that.
Exactly. That he's 100% right here. I think this guy's spot on. I think he freaking nails this video. And I should find out who it is because he's obviously super intelligent. But everything they're telling us, Epstein, Candace Owens, and I'm not saying like Ian Carroll's doing a bad job reporting, but all these people who are not talking about the technology, in my opinion, are shills because they're overlooking one of the biggest topics, if not the biggest topic, that affects everyone on Earth right now. And where they're at in their process is so far along, and for us not to address it is absolute insanity.
Nobody's paying attention to the data centers and the build out of this surveillance state that Donald Trump is bringing in. Even these clowns like...
Going back to Apex Systems and the data centers, Cigna's in Connecticut, that's a big client. Healthcare, obviously. And they have a huge data center. I want to say, I forget which town I want. It's either, is it Windsor or South Windsor? I don't know. Around there. And healthcare is obviously a huge component. So they're probably just merging everything across the board, be my guess.
RFK. Remember when he said every American within the next 4 years, they expect them to be wearing wearables?
In fact, we're about to launch one of the biggest advertising campaigns in HHS history to encourage Americans to use wearables. It's a way of people can take control over their own health. They can take responsibility. They can see, as you know, what food is doing to their glucose levels, their heart rates, and a number of other metrics as they eat it. And they can begin to make good judgments about their diet.
We're always being told something. We're always being sold something. It's never a question of, hey, what do you guys think about this, right? Nobody asks the public what we want, what we think. We never have a choice. It's always presented to us after the fact in their best possible light for your safety and national security, and you never have a choice.
About their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again, and we are going to, my vision is that every American...
Why don't you go fuck yourself? Why don't you and everyone in your family go get fucked, and everyone that you're affiliated with go get fucked? Because what I think would make America healthy again is ending chemtrails, GMOs, and fluoride in the water, all of your poison on TV, all of the cell towers that are not actually cell towers that are emitting harmful radiation to the entire planet, all of your human experimentation, all of your human trafficking, everything else that you're doing, and the unmentionable adrenochrome and whatever else you're doing, all of you can get fucked. And I think that would make America healthy again. Oh, and by the way, maybe some accountability for treason. I don't know. What do I know?
And is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
And of course, wearables with 6G technology will give them instant access underneath your skin. And from there, of course, we go into the smartphones becoming obsolete and brain-computer interfaces. And these psychopaths like Yuval Harari and Klaus
Neuralink is still a faggot.
I'm telling you for years and years and years that the plan has always been to see, to be under your skin.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people.
It's tempting just to skip this guy. I've heard him too many times say this shit, and it's like, you just want to skip this part. Fair warning, he's awful. He's just so terrible. Awful, awful. Project Soul Catcher. It's all conspiracy, right, guys? It's all conspiracy. It's all far-fetched. I have mental health issues. I am psychotic. I should take my meds. This is all just wild conspiracy theory.
To accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin. Their body temperature. Like we walked in here, we had to go through a body temperature test. No, I think maybe in a couple of decades when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored. That we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian machines. But
I did not consent to this. I do not consent to this. In fact, from 2016 forward, I was very vocal about being non-consensually stalked and monitored 24/7. I was very outspoken about this. I did not want it. I did not agree to it. No one agreed to it, and everyone told me I was crazy. And fuck this asshole.
Even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. The biometric sensor. It's the thing, it's the gadget, it's the technology that converts biological data into digital data that can be analyzed by computers. And having the ability to really monitor people under the skin, this is the biggest game changer of all. With this kind of surveillance, I mean, you watch the big president, the big leader, gives a speech on television. The television could be monitoring you and knowing whether you're angry or not, just by analyzing the cues, the biological cues coming from your body. So now people are now...
You're not allowed to be angry anymore. And if you commit a crime and they determine that that crime was committed out of hate, you're likely to receive a much higher sentence or penalty. So don't be angry. Don't worry about the human augmentation. Don't worry about the government taking full control over your central nervous system. Don't worry about your thoughts, unless they're angry thoughts. And I don't know, what else? Just don't ask questions, I guess.
Watching us online, all over the world. This conversation. Now, maybe even right now, the people who are watching us...
Did you guys catch that New York Times in the background right behind him? David Singer from the New York Times wrote an article titled Mystery, I think it was Mystery Weapons, right? I called his cell phone as soon as that article came out, and he didn't want to talk to me about Lockheed Martin and EMF weapons. But the title of his article was Mystery Weapons. It's a big mystery. But good luck finding that article online. David Singer, New York Times, Mystery Weapons.
Are being watched and analyzed. And you know, the thing is, it's not just you're now watching this. The thing is, we know that you're watching this, and we also know how you feel. Are you angry about what you hear? Are you frightened? Are you bored? This is the kind of power that Stalin didn't have, when Stalin gave a speech, everybody, of course, clapped their hand and smiled. Now, how do you know what they really think about Stalin? It's very difficult. You can't have a KGB agent following everybody all the time. Even if you do it, he's just watching your outside behavior. He doesn't really know what's happening in your mind. But in 10 years, the future Stalins of the 21st century, they could be watching the minds, the brains.
I need everyone in the world right now to really focus your mind on accountability for crimes against humanity. Thanks.
Of all the population all the time, and also they will have the computing power to analyze all that. It's not just having an agent following everybody all the time. The agent in Stalin's days writes a paper report, and you have these millions of paper reports piling up in Moscow. Somebody needs to read them, to analyze them. That's impossible. Now you don't need human agents. You don't need human analyzers. You just have a lot of sensors and an AI which analyzes it. And that's it. You have the worst totalitarian regime in history. And COVID is important because COVID legitimizes some of the crucial steps, even in democratic countries.
The really big
kind of like 9/11 and the Patriot Act.
Thing is hacking human beings. To hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can...
Committed to improving the state of the world. And then you have this penis licker. It's just... They're committed to nothing except their own agenda, which is control, Depop, and 100% control of the human mind. And if you control the mind, you literally control every facet of that individual's life forever.
Hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, we have no idea what happens once you pass that point. Now, in the past, many tyrants
this guy
and governments
sucks
wanted
so
to do
hard.
it, but nobody
sucks.
understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments...
Is he fucking touting their role as like the best mafia in history? Is what it sounds like. He's like, the worst people in history couldn't do it, but we could. And he's like so proud of being such a scumbag. Ugh.
Will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future.
If for some reason it's found that people like Harari, whatever, who cares, and Bill Gates and people like that, in fact, committed crimes against humanity. I know my opinion doesn't count, but maybe they shouldn't be executed for treason or given a life sentence in jail. I think an alternative solution might be to just, again, if they're convicted of crimes against humanity and the decision is to lay their bodies to waste, as an alternative solution, I would like them delivered personally to wherever I am and whoever wants to participate in a science experiment. Just want to offer that as an alternative solution. I have some ideas.
Of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life.
You know, again, if the appropriate government bodies that be convict these individuals of those crimes, and the government is dead set on executing both of these individuals for destroying humanity or whatever their crimes are. Again, I just want to offer that alternative solution. I have some ideas.
4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds.
Oh, he's awful.
But our intelligent design.
All right. So, you know, and I just wonder, you know, I look around and I wonder, like, have we lost God? Have we forgotten where we come from? Right? Our creator? Because life is so beautiful. Nature is so beautiful. And for man to mess with it and exactly like he's talking about, pretend to be a fake creator and genetically modify or alter people or trees or the air or whatever, our environment that was created beautifully, perfectly. I think we just really need to acknowledge that God made us all and perfectly, right? None of us are perfect, but this here, what was created, is perfect, was perfect. And what we're doing to it is destroying it. And I don't think anyone really wants to do that.
And the intelligent design of our clouds. The IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the...
After whatever amount of time period, which they probably lied to us about, doesn't matter, whatever amount of time period, this faggot is not fucking changing it for everyone else. Like, what the fuck?
Era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective? Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, this, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's
over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized.
Free will, huh? Well, I am virtually just taking a piss on your fucking dome piece right now, Yo Harari. I think you're a fucking scumbag. Not that you'd ever talk to someone at the bottom of the totem pole like me, but if you ever want to have a conversation about what a piece of shit you are, 203-500-6666.
Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
The
to
vaccine
the test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, more manageable. Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
You're a fucking psycho.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us. The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. When you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. And of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even...
I have, again, if all these guys, I don't know if there's a World Council for Treason or if it's just done in the United States, or I don't know how these trials work for crimes against humanity, the Nuremberg stuff that we called for like 5 years ago plus. I'm just saying that if it's found by whatever appropriate legal entities that be, that these people are guilty of crimes against humanity and should be executed for their crimes, all I'm saying is I have an alternative solution that could be beneficial and entertaining for society, for all of us, right? Because they seem to know what's best for us. But anyway, where are those Nuremberg trials?
Legal implications, and we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year. So this fourth industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed.
So here we have Donald Trump, the father of the vaccine, who will now be the father of 6G in America, convincing people, which I've said many times. How many times do they have to come out and they go, well, we're in a race with China, for these sheeple to go, oh yeah, well, we got to get to 6G before China. Oh yeah, we got to get the data centers and AI before China. And they just nod and say yes. They don't even know what it means. And they go, I'm not smart enough to understand what it actually means, right? Just like when we all tried to explain what the vaccine was, an mRNA. And everybody called us all insane. It was too late for people to learn. And most of the people who ended up getting vaccinated, a lot of them actually woke up and said, oh, I regret it. I shouldn't have done it. I should have done my research. They dismissed the stuff we were all saying at first. It's the same thing here. They're going to have this all built out.
Not only did, people dismiss what we were telling them, it was all out assault by government and the Google, Facebook and everyone else to censor us, and that they openly admitted that they censored us and the content for people telling the truth because they had their agenda.
The data centers, they're going to have it all built out with AI. Nobody's paying attention to it. They're going to have it all built out with 6G. And then they're going to replace Donald Trump with some other character because these are hand-selected characters. And Donald Trump is just here for the left-right divide to distract, to cause just countless amounts of things that should not even be issues that we're discussing, whether it's the trans stuff, whether it's the government-fed Epstein files, while we're watching them build out the World Economic Forum's, United Nations, artificial intelligence governance. That's what this is about, and that's what 6G is going to give them. It's going to give them total control, including of you. They are transitioning all governments across the world into artificial intelligence run governance. One of the first things that we're seeing, of course, is how there are mass federal firings. All of these people in Congress can't afford to have a government shutdown because they're not getting paid right now, right? So a lot of workers are quitting their job. Donald Trump is threatening that they're going to fire all of these people. Now, most people are under the impression that these employees are just going to be fired and never actually...
Do you guys think there's like any possibility that they know that they lose at the end? It seems like they very much know that God exists. It seems like they're very much against God. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw, or not saw, but is familiar with David Crowley's Gray State. I think they ended up making it into a movie, but it couldn't have been his original design, I don't think, obviously. But I just wonder if they knew at some point that so much information would get out that it would be impossible for them to continue their game of control through money, establishment, fake laws, and all the, whatever else. And so if, I don't know, what I'm hearing from what this guy's saying is if it's an AI governance and the manpower's not really needed and there's no real government establishment in place, and they think they can do this like almost totally without people, I just wonder if that's a way for them to kind of walk out the back door without facing accountability, and the technology is their last ditch effort to keep humans in line. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Replaced. Well, they're right. They're never going to be replaced with human beings. But once everything is run through artificial intelligence, well, then people will start realizing that this is a game that they've been playing. The left-right divide, pointing fingers at one another, keeping you distracted while they're building this out right in front of your face. So all these employees are losing their jobs. Trump is even saying that he's going to withhold their pay, forcing them to quit. And then you look at the other noise around us with the government shutdown, talking about air traffic control once again. As I covered for months and months and months, all of these planes crashing into one another, planes falling out of the sky. Who's to blame? DEI hires, right? All part of their game, because every part of our day-to-day...
Sorry for all the coughing. I grew my own weed this year, and they dump a shitload of chemtrails in there. I don't know if anyone noticed. So I think it was a combination of that, and my plant was a little bit premature, given the weather conditions and me not knowing what I'm doing. But I think the chemtrails is what's making me cough.
Life is going to be run through AI, and that is part of what they've done with the DEI narrative. They're making regular people afraid to get on an airplane because they don't know if the person flying the plane even has the credentials to fly a plane, right? Because he was hired because of his skin color, or what his preference or her preference was in the bedroom, or what their pronouns might have been. Planes are falling out of the sky because DEI hires an air traffic controller, making it unsafe to fly because these people do not know what they're doing. It's all part of the game. And now all the narrative out there again is that we have more problems in the airline industry. People's flights are getting canceled. People who are flying for jobs, for meetings, aren't able to get there because there's a shortage of employees. But don't worry, because we already know what the solution is, and that's part of what they've been telling us for a few years now, that AI is going to replace air traffic controllers, just like AI is going to replace your government. AI is going to replace you. AI is going to run and control everything. So while all this is going on, well, everybody's kind of just saying, well, I'm glad the government shut down, which of course everybody should be glad the government shut down, but the government's never really been running. All the people in Congress are actors. Yep. And what they're doing is sabotaging every part of the infrastructure that's been in place. The government itself would actually function if this entire system wasn't controlled by them. If you could actually vote for, say, the guy up the street, that maybe he was a better person than any...
Speaking of which, if anyone wants to install me as governor of Connecticut or something of the like, I will do my best to fuck this shit up and end the corruption. Just saying.
these guys on the ballot. You could put him on there and say, hey, you know, everybody in town likes this guy. Maybe we should run him for president. Well, he doesn't have millions of dollars to get on the ballot, right? And of course, we know that none of the votes actually count because they never even show us or prove to us that they count. We just turn on a television set and we're told this is the president, here's your new senator, here's your new governor. And these sheeple actually believe that somebody somewhere is counting all of this up and that they're actually trusting the people and allowing the people to control who are in these positions of power. And it's an utter joke. So while all that's going on, while our government is shut down or pretending to be shut down, what they're doing is transitioning you into AI governance, showing you that, look, the economy's fine with the government shutdown. The stock market's at an all-time high. Nobody seems to care that these people are there. We don't need these people, right? Well, of course. And they don't want you to need people in power because once AI governance is put into place, you are under 100% surveillance and 100% control like never before. So while that's all happening, the UN just had their big UN meeting, right? And what was going on at the UN meeting? Well, all people were talking about is how Donald Trump's escalator, stopped functioning, and how he read them the riot act on the teleprompter about, hey, this is a disgrace that my escalator stopped. I'm going to investigate this. It's sabotage. Well, you got the sabotage part, right? Because what they're doing is sabotaging government and distracting you with little childish things like escalators going off. While right in front of you, Donald Trump was talking about what? He was talking about bringing in an AI certificate for verification, which is another fancy term for the digital ID. And this from the World Economic Forum this week. The UN has moved to close the gap in AI governance. And if you think Donald Trump's not in on it, you're just convincing yourself of that. Because if you're not paying attention to what's happening in America with AI governance, what do you think all these data centers are actually for? I know that MAGA and the alt-right media don't want to address the...
It's like week 1 or week 2, billions of dollars to Oracle for biosurveillance. Just continuing what I think Obama started with biosurveillance, and again, we tried to tell you guys, and just gotta. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're going through this, guys.
To actually admit that Donald Trump is bringing in the United Nations and the World Economic Forum's AI governance infrastructure to America. In fact, they want America to be first in line ahead of everybody else as they build out this technocracy here in America. Well, Donald Trump accelerating federal permitting of data center infrastructure. Trump executive order pushes for quicker data center construction. So what do you think the data center construction is for? It's for AI governance. It is to bring in a full-on surveillance state. Every single thing that is recorded, every single camera that is filming something, it's all going into these data centers. In fact, you are a part of these data centers. Every single thing you ever said online or ever say online, every email that you send, every blink that you make, and
I might be fucked on this one, guys, so I'm sure I will be removed and put into a detention center immediately. It's been nice knowing all of you. Yep, can't erase all the retarded faggots I posted online.
In front of a camera. All of it is going to be a part of these data centers, but they don't want you to think about what these data centers are. They just want you to know that these data centers are coming and they're being built all around you, but don't worry about that. Worry about if men are playing men's sports and women are playing women's sports, and worry about things that 10-year-olds would talk about in the high school auditorium, instead of worrying about what your corrupt government is doing. Building out the Tower of Babel reborn, because that's what AI governance is. And what you're seeing is them play this game. You may have noticed over the last couple of years or so, when they have these hearings in Congress of people like Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, they go into
the real reason they use phallic symbolism is because they're all part of the small dick club.
Congress, and they get read the riot act, right? You're canceling this, you're doing that, you're suppressing speech here, right? Nothing ever gets accomplished because it's part of the show. That's what Congress is. It's a show. They put it on TV so that you watch it. You think that these people are actually working for you in case you're actually thinking about a revolution or holding these people accountable. So all these big tech guys go into Congress, and what do they talk about? Censorship. They talk about regulations of AI, regulations of social media, and nothing gets resolved, right? And that's all been done by design for what's happening right now, so that the governments around the earth can come together as one. The United Nations, World Economic Forum, all of them, and blame people like Mark Zuckerberg and blame people like Sam Altman and say, look, these companies are running rampant on their own. They're unregulated. But the fact of the matter is, Altman, Zuckerberg, all of these CEOs work for DARPA. They're DARPA employees, just like Elon Musk. They do not come up with this technology, okay? This is government technology. Their job is to sell it to you, to give you the illusion that you're going out and you're purchasing a phone that's going to keep you under surveillance inside your home because you want to purchase it. And that's exactly what people are doing. Like I've said a million times, that they knocked on your door before the cell phone came out and said, here's the new phone. Look at it. It doesn't plug into the wall. You walk around. This is from the government. You're going to have it. Everybody go, no way. It's the illusion that you're buying these things. You're buying an Alexa. You're buying a Ring for your own self-enjoyment or for your own protection. That's what they're doing. And now all this stuff is coming to a head with these characters in Congress pretending to be, the CEOs of corporations, but really they're just DARPA employees. Even recently we had Google, right? Google admitting we censored everybody. We terminated all of these accounts during COVID because the Biden administration told us to, but now we're bringing everybody back. We're going to bring back
still permanently banned on Twitter and LinkedIn.
MAGA. Well, they'll bring MAGA back, of course, but they won't bring people like the Call for an Uprising back, right? I mean, this has been going on for years and years and years. Only takes about 10 seconds for it to get reviewed, and it automatically gets rejected. But they're pretending, right, that Congress is working for you, and they're bringing back your rights. They're taking the power out of big tech's hand. They're putting it in the government's hand. And this is all of these clowns at the United Nations, including an actor who I want to play what he happened to say as well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, best known for playing Robin in the Batman movies. Well, he's there, right? You might say, why is this guy speaking there? Well, because actors are also government assets as well. And they're speaking there to get you on board because they're the social influencers, the social engineers. And listen to all of them talk about how big tech has been, how wonderful all this technology is, but it's time to regulate it. We need rules and all this stuff in place. Now their job is to convince you that we need a global entity to monitor everything online because it's gotten out of control. Big tech has taken away speech. Big tech has allowed this versus that. Big tech has allowed young kids to look at pornography. We got to get the government involved. And really what it's about is giving the government control, which they already have, but your permission to allow them to bring in what they're calling AI governance, to police everything. And of course, this all leads, as Gordon will tell you, to a digital ID, which we all really need because it's not fair that people out there are anonymous or people out there might be pretending to be somebody that they're not. So we need not only AI governance, we need full-on ending anonymity on the net.
The establishment of the UN Independent International Scientific Panel on AI and the Global Dialogue on AI Governance marks a significant step forward in a global effort to harness...
He sounds like the dad from Arrested Development. Remember that guy? He was pretty funny.
...the benefits of artificial intelligence while addressing its risks.
Yeah,
the Scientific Panel on AI will serve as a crucial bridge between cutting-edge AI research and policy making. By providing rigorous, independent scientific assessments, it will help the international community to anticipate emerging challenges and make informed decisions about how we govern this transformative technology. The Secretary General calls on all stakeholders to support this historic initiative and contribute to building a future where artificial intelligence serves the common good of all humanity.
Ah, look at them telling us what's good for us.
It's too important to be left to just a privileged few. We must harness its potential, minimize its risk, and equalize its reach. Experts say AI could accelerate progress on nearly 80% of the Sustainable Development Goals. Within this decade, it will reshape industry, economies, and societies faster than any technology before it. To harness it, we must invest in people, in digital skills, in inclusive education, in AI literacy.
There's, she just said a lot of things there. Industry, people, and why don't we have more whistleblowers on this topic? Trump mentions it. Oh, he said right out in the open, under the skin, but we're not having a real discussion about what's going on. No one who's allegedly a journalist or reporting on anything, social media or otherwise, is really diving into this topic. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please send me people who are talking about this, if I'm mistaken. Like, obviously this guy put out a banger video, but I mean at high level where everyone's involved in having an open discussion about the technology. I don't see it. I don't see it in the government. I don't see it in the media, mainstream media for sure. Don't see it in the independent, quote unquote, journalism, free space, you know. Well, I take that back. Again, where are we getting this content from? But again, if having the conversation where everyone's involved, like at the decision-making process to create change, and it's very one-sided because clearly these forums are taking place, these organizations at the global scale, the world scale, exist, the IEC. Clearly these are jobs, industry, people, employees. So why don't we have more whistleblowers coming forward saying, you know, this is what's happening, this is what's wrong.
No one is left behind. Because the future will not be shaped by algorithms alone. It will be shaped by choices we make together.
Get that paycheck.
If we decide so.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first time I've ever been to any kind of function of the United Nations, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you all very much for inviting me. So, the 20th Annual Internet Governance Forum. No big surprise, we're going to be speaking a lot here about artificial intelligence. It's easy to see that AI is changing the internet a lot, and arguably it's poised to change the whole world. Of course, nobody knows exactly how. Personally, I believe that this technology has the potential to make our lives better in so many ways, to solve big problems and to expand knowledge, to create beauty. But I also do see the potential.
No. God creates beauty, and people are creative. And you're lacking both right now, buddy.
For harm. For a greater and greater concentration of power.
Ugh.
And for the denigration of humanity itself. So, how do we get the good stuff and avoid the bad stuff, right? Well, I think that one of the keys is in the very name of this gathering, the Internet Governance Forum. We need to have some governance. We need to establish some values. We need to make some rules. We need to set up systems to enforce those rules. Look at the last 20 years of another revolution.
Tell me which rules are being enforced now. Is it the one, like the corruption rules? Are they being enforced? Have we had accountability for people like scamming the American citizens out of all their tax money? Do we have accountability and rules around Pentagon audits? It's the same. It's just the same sales pitch over and over.
Technology, social media. Governments largely stayed hands-off with social media. We put our trust in Silicon Valley. And yes, social media has been beneficial in a lot of ways. But it's also been deeply damaging in a lot of other ways.
Maybe because it's run by the government, you faggot.
We might have mitigated some of that harm if we had been more proactive with our governance. Now, I know a lot of you here probably have a lot of good ideas about how to govern AI. I'll briefly mention the specific idea that I'm here to talk about.
Would have been a good idea to pick a different tie.
And that's the basic principle that your digital self should belong to you. That the data that humans produce, our writings and our voices and our connections, our experiences, our ideas, should belong to us. And that, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So tell me how AI is going to help.
We're talking about in front of you while Donald Trump's building out the data centers, talking about all this stuff that doesn't actually matter. You have all these unelected people talking to you about how somebody needs to hold Zuckerberg accountable. And that sounds good on paper because everybody goes, yeah, these guys, Zuckerberg, these guys on YouTube, they censored all of us. Somebody does need to hold them accountable. That's been the ploy that they've been pulling. The government's been behind it the whole time. The government is behind the internet. Facebook is really LifeLog, the creation of the CIA. Okay? Google is really Alphabet Inc., which is really a tentacle of the United States government, a way of watching and monitoring the things that you're thinking and what you're searching on the...
I believe both Facebook and Google are also Apex clients. I could be wrong on that, but I thought they both were. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of companies, and I'm 10 years removed from the company, right? I imagine Lockheed's still one of their largest companies. McKesson's one. They, Cigna, possibly United Health Group. They work with a lot of the big boys.
Internet, because you're literally
Disney.
telling them by everything you search what you're thinking about. They're already inside of your mind. And now they're all coming together using terms like equality, equity, science. This terminology is to confuse you, as if what they're doing is, well, you're not smart enough to figure out what this is scientifically. Us building a control grid where you're not going to be able to piss without our say-so, or we're going to be able to turn off your electricity because of all the smart devices you have whenever we feel like it. We'll have the police at your door if you tweet something or post something on Facebook that we don't like. If you search for something in a Google search and we think that it's controversial, like, I don't know, how to know the government is tyrannical, well, we'll show up at your front door and arrest you, of course.
Yeah. So, there was a stretch of like 18 months where I had about, I don't know, I would say like over a dozen separate instances where I interacted with police, with like 20 different police officers between all the calls, something like that. I got prosecuted by the state of Connecticut for sending a threatening email. I had like the FBI, Governor Lamont, probably the CIA, state's attorney's office, a whole bunch of people on this email chain of like 100 emails. And then I get like a regular notice from the tax collector. So I looped them into and made some threatening comments and got prosecuted by the state. But the whole point of the emails was to report EMF weapons and what was going on with the technology. But instead of investigating, of course, they're not going to investigate themselves because everyone is in on this cover-up. This is 100% an agenda that is and has been being rolled out. But so, yeah, just in terms of saying things, and the police showing up. So the police showed up for that, threatening comments to state officials. The first councilman select of Ashford was the individual who initiated the charges against me. But I had a shit ton of people on that email, and it was just interesting. They chose to select the one thing they could get me on instead of investigating Lockheed Martin and all the credible evidence that points in the direction of what's actually going on. The other time the police showed up, I called the FBI because I've reported in detail my former company, names, individuals. I've referenced Karen's document, everything that needs to be reported, and the FBI is corrupt as shit. So they don't do shit anyway. But as like information's coming out about how corrupt the FBI is, I called the FBI and I said something to the effect of like, I don't know, I'm concerned about everyone, in your building or something, or I told them all they should just like eat their service weapons or something, and they're corrupt as shit. I don't know whatever I said, but that got the police to my front door. So yeah, this is a police state. It always has been. They have no sense of humor about any of this, and they will not investigate the actual crimes that are being reported because it implicates themselves. So we are amidst the biggest cover-up of all time. That's what's happening right now. They have a specific agenda. You can believe that or not, but look at the technology and the rollouts and what's going on, specifically what it's designed for, specifically what its capabilities are, and then just look backwards. Just look at what they've already done. It'll give you a good indication of where they're going, and they're kind of telling us.
Don't you dare search for something like the blood libel or what really may have happened in certain wars and everything else. They'll show up at your front door, right? And as Gordon said, right, your digital self should belong to you. And the only way to do that is to bring in a digital ID as well. because the AI governance runs through a digital identity. Every single thing is done through the internet. Just imagine they lock you down again, and they tell you there's another COVID.
Chemtrails.
And you might say, well, I'm not going to fall for that. Well, you don't have to fall for it, but when every single store is shut down in your town because the government shuts them down, and you're forced to buy your groceries online, and you're forced to shop fully online, and you're forced to school your kids online, and then you realize, well, you got to have a digital ID to do all of this stuff. Well, then you're going to struggle to figure out how to get away from this system when you're forced into this system. And as we see in the UK, they're telling you digital ID is coming, and you're not going to be able to work without it. Another thing that we're seeing going on is these characters being revealed in front of us as not even being real AI. For example, when Donald Trump gave that speech about Charlie Kirk's fake assassination attempt, many people noticed that it was AI. Even the sheeple in the comments were questioning if it was is he glitching? They're using AI generated Trump to speak to us? This is AI, right? My guy is so dead, they're using AI. Everybody in the comments and everybody out there has been talking about it, even the mainstream a bit, about how it was an AI version of Donald Trump. Well, guess what? Guess what? That's going on all around the earth right now. How about over in Germany? You know how the German government is going all in on AI? Well, they have an AI version of their own president that they're using to condition the masses. They're calling it the Wimitar, an AI avatar of the German state minister for culture and media. Launched in late September, it's intended to be a public example of fair AI that promotes creativity and strengthens democratic discourse. And for the most part, their artificial intelligence is so advanced that we don't know if any of these people that have been presented to us on television are even real in the first place. And most people actually don't believe that.
So if you wanted to, like, pin a crime on someone, you could just create an AI video that, you know, maybe takes place at night, right? And make it just, you know, good enough and implicate whatever individual, like, you know, whoever, right? Everyone who's not going along with the plan, and just make up a crime and get rid of them. I would think that's a very real possibility in the future. Why not?
And it's just a hard thing to sell to people because they go, I can't think of that. Now you tell me Trump is AI. Well, how do you think these 90-year-old people are flying around on jets all over the place? They're trying to convince you that, you know, we've recently, Donald Trump doesn't sleep. He's up all night. He wants to talk about politics, and he wants to talk how he could better this and do that. And people look at these guys, they're in their 80s. And you're going, how do these guys have more energy than us? We're all getting hit with the same EMF frequencies as them. Well, they're using AI in a lot of cases. And you might say, well, we would see a lot of the glitches in the AI. Well, people saw the glitch in the Trump AI. But the AI that the government uses is so far advanced that there aren't any glitches in it. But it's hard for people to fathom that they're watching a simulation where there's characters pretending to be politicians, and half the time, they're not even there. They're using AI. So even in Russia, we have the crackdowns going on with digital freedoms, right? Russia's been using the WeChat for a couple of months now, where when you purchase your phone, this app is all.
I wonder if there's a way to, like, return power to the community. And I don't know, maybe this just sounds like their smart city idea, right? But, like, is there a way to, like, have each community police itself and decide on its own, you know, obviously within reason, right? But its own laws and, you know, just a way to remove the outside influences. And, like, I think everyone in the world wants the chemtrails to stop, right?
Automatically on your phone. So in order to have the phone, you got to have this app on your phone. You can't get rid of the app. And what's on the app? Well, the app has government has full access to the mic, to the camera, to the user data, and they share it with the state right into those data centers, right? That they're building out. Well, same thing here in America that Donald Trump is building out. All of these clowns are working together and bringing in AI governance. And right now, this is just a shakedown with the government shutdown. We've seen it many, many times. But this is just well, we're going to remove all these jobs. Well, how are we going to replace them? We're having trouble with air traffic control, and the shutdown's been going down for a while now. What are we going to do? People have to fly. They got to go on vacation. They got to, you know, travel for work. Well, AI is the key. We have a system that runs on AI, and people will accept that. Why? Because they've been conditioned over the last 10 years to hate people who don't think like them. people who don't look like them. You're black, I don't like you. You're white, I don't like you. You're racist, you're racist. You're gay, I don't like you. Your hair's blue, you're a Democrat. Oh, now all of a sudden you have AI and you go, well, it's better than a DEI hire. I'd rather have AI do this because AI doesn't see race, it doesn't see this or that. Well, of course, AI is programmed to see one thing and one thing only. Anybody who's a threat to the state and to their control is they're programmed to go after, right? And that'll end up being everyone. Because when Democrats realize that the system is not for them, and Republicans realize that this AI system is not for them, and this entire thing is a control grid and a surveillance state, then everybody will be upset, but it'll be too late because the infrastructure will already be in place. And that's what they're doing right now while they distract you with nonsense on a day in, day out basis. The game known as politics, known as the left Democratic Party, the right Republican Party, to stop buying into the psyops, to stop thinking and caring about issues that are non-issues, and pay attention to things like the digital ID, because it doesn't matter what your politics are, it doesn't matter if you're straight or gay, black or white, the digital ID will enslave all of mankind. If you're a human, which most of these people who are implementing this don't seem to be, but for the rest of us who are human, this will...
I just don't see how we have a choice at this point, because everyone's already been augmented and infected with the technology, or however you want to put that, in my opinion. I don't think anyone is a pureblood. I think that's nonsense. I think they put stuff in all the foods and the vegetables and the air and the water and the food and everything, and just, I don't think we can escape what they put in our bodies with specific regard to the technology. So if they're going to, digital ID everyone, it seems to me they already have. And I just don't see a way around that. I do think we all need to come together and say no and voice our opinions at the same time. I think that's critical, and to have a discussion about this, that's important.
Affect all of us for the rest of our lives. And I mentioned in my previous video about Donald Trump talking about how he wants to bring in the AI ID verification, and of course what's happening now in the UK. And this is one of the headlines in the Daily Mail. Is the tech giant who gave Blair 275 million euros in...
Because what's the point of the ID verification? To identify the individual? Okay, well, they're already under our skin. They're already tracking us under the skin. They already can do this. So them saying, them manufacturing consent and getting everyone to agree, right? Obviously we don't, but they're just going to do it anyway. I don't think it matters. I think that's just a formality.
Line for huge ID card contract, and the ghoul you see, well, the multiple ghouls you see on your screen are Tony Blair and Larry Ellison. For those of you that don't know Larry Ellison, we're getting close to Halloween, and of course, as most of you know, I don't participate in that satanic holiday, but if you do, if you're somebody who likes to decorate your yard with scary skeletons, and you go to Spirit World or you go to Home Depot and you buy some of those ridiculous things that people put in their front lawns like Michael Myers, well, if you really want to scare your neighbors, maybe just put a giant poster up of this ghoul, Larry Ellison, who, by the way, is 81 years old. Now, you wouldn't look at him and think he was an 81-year-old man, which of course tells us that Larry's getting plenty of that red liquid that they love to take from the young children. Of course, many shows have depicted how these big tech giants, over the years I've covered it, how they like to have IVs go directly into their bodies of blood of young children to make them feel young. But we know it doesn't need to go right into their IV. It just goes right into their mouth. Just ask Larry Ellison. So if you're ready for Halloween, well, it's a good time to talk about Larry Ellison, because Larry Ellison is one of the biggest advocates for the digital ID. He's also currently going back and forth between him and Elon Musk, at least we're told, as one of the richest men, or the richest man in the world. But Larry never gets any play. No one ever talks about Larry Ellison. It's just the same characters. Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates. We need to pay attention to these guys like Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Larry Ellison, Jeff Bezos, who does get some attention, who I've exposed in the past, Sam Altman. These are the guys who are building our enslavement. And they're keeping you distracted while Donald Trump is building out these massive data centers, because people don't understand what the data centers are. So they're too busy with Charlie Kirk. Who said this about Charlie Kirk? Let's silence that person. Let's dox them. And right in front of your faces, Donald Trump is standing next to all of these big tech giants who are fully responsible for all of the crises that have been created over the last couple of years, all in the name of bringing in this digital ID, which will empower them for the rest of their lives. It'll not just empower them, it'll put their shoe on the throat of the rest of humanity, because we will lose all of our rights, including the right to free thought and free speech. So Larry Ellison has been one of the biggest advocates for the digital ID. In fact, Larry Ellison was asking for a digital ID since September 11th. Now, at the time, people weren't as tech savvy and tech reliant as they are now, so it wasn't really a possibility. Obviously, we know that September 11th was all about bringing in the Patriot Act so that these psychopaths could spy on us in our own homes every single day legally without...
100%. 100%. And that hasn't been addressed. I just feel like there's so many things that we're just not talking about anything that's going on now. We're not talking about anything that's been going on that's led us to this place. And it's not reasonable to think that we can have any kind of solution if we can't even have a conversation about it. Maybe?
Any of us having the right to obviously object to that. The only way you could object to it is by not cooperating with their technology and not allowing it inside of your home. But of course, when they sell you this stuff and tell you it's for your benefit, people don't realize that it's really the government who's selling you things like the Alexa or the Ring camera. They're the ones who are behind it. They just put shell companies in front of it. These are all DARPA creations, and these tech giants are all operatives of DARPA. So Ellison's been calling for the digital ID for a while. And as I've mentioned before, many people out there with COVID-19, they think of so many different things. They don't realize that the main objective was not depopulation. The main objective was to bring in a digital ID. This is an article from World Economic Forum. How digital ID can improve lives in a post-COVID world. They're making you do things like contact tracing. They're making you do things like social distance. This was all to convince you that a digital ID would be the best way to track the virus, so people weren't afraid of the virus. People weren't scared of getting a cough or a runny nose. People noticed that the data was saying that there was 0% of the flu the year that...
So just imagine what's possible. They know where you are, who you're with, what you're thinking. Not you, everyone. So, right, they have the technology to real time all this information about where everyone is, what everyone's doing, what they're thinking, who they're with, all the patterns, right? You know everything that's going on. You can implant thoughts, you can manipulate the situation behind the scenes from a computer with all the data. You can do whatever you want. It's complete control. I mean, who knows, right? At that point, who's driving the system, and is anyone even aware that they're being driven?
COVID came out, and people were saying, well, those are the same exact symptoms. If people actually are getting sick, is it the flu? Is it COVID? Is it pneumonia? Or is it nothing actually at all? People weren't spooked the way that they expected them to be. So a lot of the arguments around COVID were about the vaccine, of course, and the vaccine plays a big part into biometric surveillance. However, the digital ID has been the thing they've been trying to implement. So, like I said, they pivoted. Remember how many variants we had? We had Omicron and all these other ridiculous variants. They pivoted from that. They just completely stopped it because the data showed them that nobody was buying it. People weren't going to CVS. There's maybe 10% of the population were lunatics who were going and getting boosted and boosted and boosted, the same ones you still see wearing masks and begging the government to make more boosts. So they said, look, this isn't working. We're not going to be able to get these people on board with a digital ID to track viruses and biometric. We aren't going to get it. We got to think of something else. And of course, as it always goes with the government, problem, reaction, solution, they had to create a new problem. And the new problem was the immigration issue. All of a sudden, Democrats didn't care about the border, right?
Sorry, I'm just thinking, not really paying attention to what he's talking about. I kind of am, but so with the distraction, everyone knows at this point that the government is full of shit. I think most people are aware now, today, that the government is full of shit. So the question is why? What's the motivation? I think some people are asking questions, right? Maybe some people not so much, but I would think if you just found out or you're becoming aware that the government and the media is lying, you might have some questions. So if we know that they're lying to us and we can't rely on the information that they're presenting to us, this is the topic. That's my point. This is the topic of conversation. For sure, this is the topic of conversation. Because of the absolute power and control that it represents on a worldwide scale.
People like Joe Biden, who are on the record for years and years and years talking about border security, how we got to keep people out, keep illegals out. All of a sudden, they're letting the borders open. And they gave you all these stories about they're leaving the border open because they want immigrants to come and vote for them. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't just America. It was the UK, Australia. And just like the mental virus that was COVID, we had a new mental virus, which was called the immigration process, which, again, is played in the UK. Of course, Tony Blair's been an advocate for this for a long time, and now this is coming in the UK via their new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Starmer. And I want to play this speech for you and listen to the arrogance of these people. And listen to how they threaten you, just like they threatened you during COVID. They said, you're going to go and do this or else. You're going to go and do this or else. Well, there was pushback, and they pivoted. And
it's illegal migration. And I suspect that may be the same in a number of other countries. For too many years, it's been too easy for people to come here, slip into the shadow economy, and remain here illegally. Because, frankly, we've been squeamish about saying things that are clearly true. It's not just that it's not compassionate left-wing politics to rely on labour that exploits foreign workers and undercuts fair wages, but the simple fact that
they're all douchebags.
They have digital.
Nobody wants
these
it.
petitions because this is an issue where the left and the right should be on board.
Yeah, nobody
and
wants.
Biden being in power. You know what? You're going to do this in 2029, then we're going to can't expect society to suddenly shut off the internet. But if people do and people resist, then they'll pull back the reins because they still, etc. with one another. I want to talk about mental and the psychosis of listening to these news stories and not paying attention to the real threat to humanity, which is this big tech push that's happening right next to Donald Trump. He's standing side by side on day one of his presidency with Larry Ellison. He's standing right next to Sam Altman, okay? For those of you that don't understand, you're looking around going, I don't understand what's so bad about a digital ID. What's the big deal? This is from the World Economic Forum during COVID. When they pushed that article saying how the digital ID can really help us all take care of COVID. Look what the digital identity is connected to. It's connected to smart cities, healthcare, financial services, banking, food, okay, being able to buy and access.
Remember I talked about earlier streamlining? You're just kind of centralizing everything.
Says food, being able to travel and mobility, having the ability to travel. You won't be able to without a digital ID. You'll be able to get food. You won't be able to have financial services like banking.
The goal is control, people. They want to control every facet of your life. It is very much against God. Everything that is free will and natural, they are the exact opposing opposite. They want total control of you.
You'll be able to have health care, okay? Their smart cities will run on digital identities, so you won't be able to enter these smart cities, which you don't want to enter anyway, but it's a threat against you saying that all this stuff is going to run through a digital identity. Telecommunications, e-government, social platforms, all of it, e-commerce. This is what they are trying to implement and have been trying to implement. This is a control system where they could freeze bank accounts, where they could shut you out from buying groceries if you write something online that is anti-government. They could do whatever they want to you, and it's about behavioral control. That's the name of the game. Here's Larry Ellison talking about just this, and how if we bring in this massive surveillance state, it'll affect people's behaviors because people will be forced to be good little citizens because we'll be watching you 24/7, including when you try to take a leak.
You don't say.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a
Would you ever want this guy to represent your interests?
squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using...
He does. This man represents your interests, whether you want him to or not. He is affiliated. He's a business partner of the United States government through Donald Trump.
AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video, by the way, and the camera's always on. You don't turn it on and off. And by the way, the way you turn it on, you can't turn it on. I'm going to the bathroom. Oracle, I need 2 minutes to take a bathroom break. Turn it off. The truth is, we don't turn it on. What we do is we record it so no one can see it. But no one can get into that recording without a court order.
That's the world that these people are trying to create, and they're doing it right in front of you. These projects like Stargate, these $500 billion projects, are being pushed by Donald Trump. And they don't want you to pay attention to it, so they keep telling you these things and talking about those things. The left's doing this, the right's doing that, and the alt-right media is taking their orders directly from the CIA, and that's what they're keeping you stuck in.
Just going to pause on the court order thing. If anyone happens to be a family lawyer and wants to reach out, my cell phone number is 203-500-6666. Be interested in understanding the process of subpoenaing records, electronic records.
While they're moving forward with these billion-dollar data centers that, if you ask anybody in the streets, they don't know what that means. These data centers are the surveillance state that Trump is bringing in. This is the AI governance. In other words, every camera everywhere, all of this data is going to go into these data centers. You'll never be able to escape. In other words, every movement you make, every thought you put on the internet will all be monitored in these data centers. You're the data going into these data centers. And included in your data, we should also not forget on day one of Trump's presidency how Larry Ellison went on stage next to Donald Trump.
I'm not allowed to take a video with someone else's song playing because that's like a copyright thing. They should not be allowed to read your thoughts. That should be like a copyright thing.
The White House and talked about curing cancer and gene editing, right? Immediately on day one, talking about how Oracle wants your DNA and they want one big Oracle system for AI to study, and all of that will be in the data centers as well.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test.
Yo, you guys ever see Boiler Room? Fuck this ass clown.
And using AI,
it's for your health, it's for your safety.
At the blood test.
Look at what he's selling you. He's such a piece of shit.
That are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can
we're gonna heal your cancers.
Cancer diagnosis.
What a fucking asshole!
AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then
once we control your mind for every second of your life, you will do exactly as we tell you to.
Vaccinate the person. Design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine.
Totally comfortable giving these guys full autonomy to do whatever they want with our bodies and our minds because they know what's best for us. They have an immaculate track record. No one should be concerned about this, guys. This is totally normal. Just let them do it. We're in good hands. We can trust the government. It's for our safety and national security. Everyone has to go along with it. Nobody has a choice because this is a free country. Guys, this is America.
that mRNA vaccine, you can make that
Israel.
robotically, again, using
Whatever.
AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available.
Trustworthy individuals with an immaculate track record.
Of the future.
So that's what Oracle wants. That's what Stargate is all about. That's what these data centers are about. And it starts with behavioral control. We have Peter Thiel buddied up with Donald Trump. We have Larry Ellison buddied up with Donald Trump. We have Larry Fink buddied up with Donald Trump. And with Peter Thiel comes Alex Karp of Palantir. Isn't it interesting that every one of these people who are billionaires, who are working with the White House, who have been given authority in the U.S. military by Donald Trump, all of them are talking about you and me and how they want to control our behavior. And people don't think far with that. They go, whatever, we want people to be good people. That's not what they're trying to implement. They're trying to make sure that you don't question Big Brother or big government. You don't question government overreach, because if you do, you're going to get slapped in the wrist. They're going to have the reins, and you're going to be cattle to them. And that's why people have to come out of the left and right and realize these people are not going to stand up for LGBTQ+, just as much as they're not going to stand up for Christians. They're keeping us all fighting with one another so that they can bring this in, so that they can manipulate your behavior into being good little citizens, which means act like the sheeple in China. Don't question Big Brother or you'll be punished.
Citizens will be on their best behavior.
Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. What we are doing
we are mind raping you. We are raping your mind. We are raping you under the skin, and that's okay, guys, because I don't know who that fat fuck is, right? But he's important enough to tell you what's going on inside your mind and body and how to behave and act appropriately in the corporate setting and your life setting, because he knows what's best for you and you don't know what's best for yourself because you like rape.
Internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay? You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies.
What the fuck?
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
I'm sure you are.
Legal scholars call predicate-based research. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone involved in bad behavior.
Then we were asked if we were willing to supply our product philanthropically, basically for free, and I was very in favor of this because our primary mission is, in fact, to set a global standard for the world for behavior.
Well, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped.
This is why everyone told me I was crazy. I wasn't thinking right. Sorry, guys. I just figured it out. Man, I wasn't thinking like everyone else was, and that's why I was crazy. I wasn't thinking right. Got it now.
The rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. The central question, in my view, of civil liberties is how, it's not if the government has data, because let's assume the government has as much data as a health insurance company. It's how is that data being used? Is it being used in a way that's lawful? Meaning, do they have the right to use it? And is it being migrated into places it's not allowed to be used? We allow the enforcement of rules that the government ought to enforce. And by the way, my experience is they want to enforce, or at the very least know they need to enforce. And if it's framed in that way, then you can have what is the ultimate Silicon Valley solution.
And that's all Donald Trump's buddies. These people are all aligned with Trump, and they go, he's not going to bring it in, though. He's not going to bring it in. Oh, right, he was just over in the UK with the Prime Minister last week, talking about bringing in AI and working together. That's what this AI infrastructure is. This is what AI governance is. And then when you think about Palantir, that's the end game.
All right, I like poker. So we're going to do a poker analogy. Everyone can imagine the whole world sitting down at a poker table, right? And, well, maybe this is a bad example. Let's just say there's two poker players. One's good and one's evil. And the evil one said, I bet that all of humanity is going to be controlled by technology. And the good side, the good player, has a chance to call, fold, or raise.
Palantir is getting put in the spotlight. You may have noticed their stock is booming by design because they want Palantir to be a household name, just like Apple, a corporation. They want you to think it's a corporation and that it's not DARPA, that it's not the deep state working here. They want you to think it's just a company that's got really good technology. It's going to help us move forward in society, but that's not what it's there for. It's there for predictive policing. Things like the Gotham Project. How Palantir is really it's really Israeli surveillance is what it actually is. And people out there only know the word Palantir, the name Palantir, because they're trying to make them into heroes in America. That ICE is paying Palantir, and Palantir is building out this big immigration OS surveillance platform. So people are going, that's great. Let's get rid of these immigrants. Let's get rid of them now. That's what the people in the psychosis say. Let's get rid of them. We don't need them here. We don't want them here. They're, okay, well, obviously there's something to illegal immigration and everything else. Yeah, that's it is a problem, but it's a government-created problem. They could easily stop
David Crowley, Gray State.
this without digital IDs, without Palantir. It's pretty easy, right? I mean, ever try to walk into Canada? You can't. Right, you got to get through. You're going to get caught at the border. And well, what's the problem here? Well, the problem here is that they're letting people in. They're paying people to come in so that they can bring this. And now Palantir is getting put on us into a spotlight. Oh, Palantir is helping arrest all these people. But really, what Palantir is doing is it's compiling data on all Americans, me and you, not just illegal immigrants. And what is this leading to? Well, this is leading to what they want, which is predictive policing, which most people don't understand what that means. Well, let me explain. Predictive policing is the thought police, which means when the media starts to turn the lever on who a terrorist is in this country, like they've done over the last 8 years. Think about 10 years ago. A terrorist was a guy in a cave, right, looking like Osama bin Laden. That's a terrorist. Then, when Biden was president, what was a terrorist? Conservative voters. What? And all the Democrats were like, yeah, they are. Yep, the insurrection, which again, a very obvious black ops government operation. And now what's a terrorist? Left wings are terrorists, right? So they've told you that all citizens are now terrorists, right? And they can continue to turn that whatever way they want. So if you're now left wings are terrorists, well, if you're trans and you're online, well, guess what? You're going to be put on a watch list, not just a watch list. You could be arrested ahead of time because the government could say, well, our data from AI is telling us that the person who's trans, who's online reading about Columbine, might be likely to go shoot up a school. So we're going to arrest him and prevent the school shooting. And everyone's going to cheer and go, yeah, arrest him. He's trans. And then they could put a Dem in power, whatever they feel like doing, and say, same thing. Oh, conspiracy theorists, lunatics, like a call for an uprising.
So as someone who's been prosecuted by the state now multiple times, what I can tell you is this: the legal system is not fair. Don't make any threats of violence. Obviously, don't do anything violent. It's not how we win this. Don't take vengeful action against anyone. Obviously, don't hurt anyone. Don't threaten anyone, and use your mind and fuck them. Just absolutely fuck them with their own language, right? Get loud about it and speak your mind, right? Peacefully. Don't threaten anyone. Again, just speaking from experience, spending time in the courtroom enough to not want to get sidelined for doing something stupid and take myself out of the game, right? So anyway, be direct to the point. Back things up as much as you can, in fact, and don't let them escape accountability. Just do it the right way.
Online talking about the government conspiring against the people, how the nations conspire. That's dangerous. We're going to arrest him before we have some type of situation like, they'll just say like the Unabomber or something like that because he's anti-tech, right? And then they'll arrest me ahead of time. It's a world that we've seen in Minority Report that looks like this, and it'll be marketed like this, and the sheeple will eat it up. Because remember, these people are so easily marketable. They don't realize, when they watch these big pharma commercials, they're running on the beach, they're holding hands, they're kissing, waterfalls. And they're like, yes, this pill will help, your sex that don't actually.
Just 6 years ago, the homicide rate in this country had reached epidemic proportions. It seemed that only a miracle could stop the bloodshed. But instead of one miracle, we were given 3, the precognitives. Within just 1 month under the pre-crime program, the murder rate in the District of Columbia was reduced 90%.
They were going to be waiting for me in the car.
He was going to rape me.
I was going to be stabbed.
Right here. Within a year, pre-crime effectively stopped murder in our nation's capital.
In the 6 years we've been conducting our little experiment, there hasn't been a single murder.
And now pre-crime can work for you.
We want to make absolutely certain that every American can bank on the utter infallibility of this system, and to ensure that what keeps us safe will also keep us free.
Pre-crime? It works.
It works. It works.
It works. It works.
On Tuesday,
So there's the predictive programming for predictive policing. How about that? For sure, right, with the Tom Cruise movie, and that's exactly what they want. Did you catch the 6 in there? That's the only number they know.
22nd, vote yes on the National Pre-Crime Initiative.
So this is the world they want, and it all starts with a digital ID. And that might blow your mind. Well, how do you get to pre-crime and all that stuff? With a digital ID, everything you do online is monitored and tracked. And you might say, well, I don't do anything bad. Oh, yeah, well, maybe you watch too many true crimes. Maybe you watch those crime shows and you research that type of stuff. Oh, guess what? You could be labeled a threat. They're way too into these crime shows. They're watching way too many of it. We'll arrest them because we think that potentially they could be a threat. Oh, this person's online and they're reading about weather modification from the government. Oh, well, that's too much of a threat. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to push you and force behaviors, like Larry Fink said, which will force you to just be a robot and not be you, and never critically think and never do any research on your own. Just be a little piece of meat like the government wants you to be. Be cattle for them. Be an ant that they could squash in a moment's notice and freeze your bank account.
Yep. All right, I think we got it. Nice job. If you made it all the way to the end, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, covered a lot. I don't know if I feel like doing a summary. Technology bad, people good. Got to have a discussion about it. Too big to overlook. This is the topic that is being ignored. This is the topic that most mainstream outlets are not covering. And when I say mainstream, I'm including the quote unquote independent journalists. So yeah, let's have a conversation about this. I am pretty tired. It's about 5:54 in the morning, January 1st. Let's have a good year. Let's go. Fake calendar. They probably lied to us about that too, right? I mean, who knows what day it actually is.